A man from Weston-super-Mare says his life has been saved thanks to a local charity which has helped him deal with a chaotic childhood. A band of brothers, or ABOB, works with those who are at risk or who've been involved in the criminal justice system. They buddy young men up with older male mentors. Sarah Jane Bungay has been hearing how it's changing lives.
So that was when I was 14.
A judo champion in his teens, but behind the smiles, Jordan was already struggling with physical and emotional bullying at school.
Led me getting mixed up in criminal activity, doing silly things, getting a criminal record, getting arrested multiple times. I regret it. I regret it every day.
Skip forward several years and he found himself working with ABOB, learning life skills, addressing his behaviour. Without them, he says things would be very different.
I reckon I would either be dead, in prison or on the streets because they've shown me the right way to live.
The idea is to team young men who've often had chaotic upbringings with older men, older role models they haven't had in their lives. It begins with a weekend away. ABOB call it a rite of passage. The young men take part in activities and are encouraged to open up about their lives, their frustrations, their anger. Alongside them, the older men who listen, encourage, all without judgment.
I used to sort of use a shorthand of young offenders. I now just say traumatised young men. The correlation's one-to-one, right? So these are, without fail, young men who, once you actually give them a space to tell their story, your heart will break open.
So how you been?
To start off with, I was quite sceptical about speaking to an older bloke because my friendship group was mainly female.
Alex has struggled with addiction after a challenging childhood involving 11 foster homes. Today he's met up with one of his mentors, Mark.
They're really understanding. Like, some of the guys that I've spoken to have been through the journey that I've been through myself, so it's quite nice that they can relate to it.
What we're trying to do is to support young men who want to make a change in their lives. Men who are not trying to be anything that they're not. Just trying to be authentic, sincere, supportive, not being judgmental, and not telling them what to do. It enriches my life.
A band of brothers has helped many disaffected young men fulfil their potential and realise they can contribute positively to society, despite what society has thrown at them. Sarah Jane Bungay, BBC Points West.
With me to discuss this is Dr. Caroline Flurey, Associate Professor of Men's Health at the University of the West of England. Caroline, we saw there in that report Alex's story, his childhood spent in 11 different foster homes. Is it helpful talking about that childhood?
Absolutely, yes, of course. And I think we think a lot that men don't necessarily open up and don't talk about mental health issues or their struggles, but actually they do more than we think. And as we've just seen there, if you provide them with appropriate mentors and a safe, private, trusted environment and permission to open up, which often is better granted by another man who can sort of bestow, you're still manly if you open up, then yeah, absolutely, men do open up, and it's so important that they have that opportunity to.
Is there still then that stigma attached to men opening up?
I think so, yes. I think there's very much a narrative still in society that men don't talk. I think the more that we tell men that men don't talk, the more that they sort of hear that men don't talk, and therefore am I a real man if I do talk? But yes, very much so. There was a recent study looking at male suicide that found men who go on to complete suicide present to their GP, or over 80% of those men present to their GP in advance of that. So they are seeking help, but they'll often maybe present with physical issues because perhaps there's an impact on feeling too vulnerable. But So men do talk. We just don't necessarily at the moment have the skills to listen to them.
Is it sometimes the case that they can talk and appear very confident, but we're still not tapping into what's going on beneath some of that talk and that confidence?
Absolutely, yes. So I think there's an element of not hearing what men are saying, and sometimes men will express distress in ways that we don't necessarily recognise, because we're very much as a society primed to recognise distress as the way that women express distress. So, we'll see men are more likely to, for example, self-medicate through drug use or alcohol use, or the behaviours that we just discussed in that report. And all of those are cries for help that we're not necessarily hearing.
Okay. Really interesting, Dr. Flurey. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Now, dairy farmers